Hi, I'm Natalie from Namaste Farms, and today I'm going to show you how I tailspin yarn. Okay, there's many ways to do it, but I'm just going to show you one way, the way that I do it. The first thing is you want to have a really long fleece, and that would be, no shorter than like this. This is like 8 inches, but ideally like 12 inches if you could find a 12-inch fleece. But you figure that the animal, a long wool grows an inch a month, and so does a goat. And mohair, so you're going to have to find people that have them, and that is really hard to do. They're extremely premium, and when you have a source, don't share it. That's my advice. After I spin the fiber together, it'll end up looking like this, and sometimes I leave it natural, and this almost looks like a scarf, but it's not. This is just the yarn. And then I either will dye it or just leave it like this. This one is a natural color, which it means that it's going to be black essentially, but it'll have red tips from the sun sometimes bleaching. And this was a lamb fleece, and it was just a little bit short. And when it's short, it makes it really hard to work with, because as you're spinning it in, you're taking like, at least a ½ an inch to an inch of its length already when it goes into the yarn. And then it ends up looking kind of like gorilla fur, and that's what I call this one. And even though I call it that, I love this. I think it's really chic, but I say that about all my stuff. So here's one with a really long fleece. I love this. And it's a shocking sort of cranberry, hot pink, and I knit it. So even though this looks almost like it's a scarf, this is just the yarn. And then this is what the knitted object looks like in the end. And I love the beauty of this, because this is how the locks look like when they're on the animal. In England, with Wensleydale long wools, what I have, and I do this too when I'm going to show an animal with a really long fleece, I go throughout the year and I split its locks that are starting to felt, because as they grow, through the elements, like the water hitting it from the rain or from irrigation, they'll start to mat together, and that's felting. Matting is felting. And you have to go with mineral oil on your hands, and you rub it through their fleeces, and then you pull all of these mats apart, so you end up being able to get these gorgeous long fleeces. And it's very, very labor intensive, and it makes the long fleeces really expensive to purchase, but they're worth it. And very hard to find. Very hard to find. Don't ever share your source. I've said that before. If you find someone that has those kind of fleeces for sale, you want to keep it a secret. Okay, so one of the first things that I do, come over here and I'll show you, is I have like this mass of fleece that's been washed. And I try not to take all the lanolin out. In other words, I use extremely hot water and I use Dawn, but I don't wash it too many times, because I know that I'm going to end up washing it with Dawn again after it's been dyed. But you just want to be able to work with it. It helps it stick together, and it helps you work with it when you're spinning from the lock, if it has a little bit of lanolin in it. So basically what I would do is I go through this fleece just like this, and I'll start pulling, because I want to find nice hefty locks. I'll just start pulling it like this. Okay? And so I'll take like this one, I'd probably pull this one end off. And I leave it just like that. And tailspin refers to this end. This is essentially the end that's been shorn, and this is the end that I'm going to end up putting into the core of my yarn, right? Okay, so I just go through and I do that. I just try and find some really nice locks. I straighten them out, and I don't want to mess with them too much, because if I get this frizziness going on, it's going to felt when I wash it, and I don't want that. Sorry about all that noise. My kids, I don't know what they're doing over there, but it sounds like they're bowling, and we don't obviously have a bowling alley in our house. Okay, so here I'm just going to keep splitting. And then all this stuff it's essentially picked. When we spin from the lock, we use picked fleece, and from me pulling things apart, I end up having this fluff left over that I can't use for the tails, because it's already been picked apart. So that's what I'm going to make the core from. So let's just say I'm going to have a bunch of these, and I'm going to put them, and I'm going to try and line them all up with the shorn end, because that's, like I said, the end that I'm going to want to put in the middle of my yarn. And this is really super labor intensive. So I'm just warning you ahead of time. I have a friend on Facebook, Bryce, and it took him 6 hours to spin 15 yards, so get ready. I mean, it is super labor intensive. And like I said, there's other people that do it a different way maybe. This is the way I do it, and it works for me. Okay, so this is the thing. Some people use roving, right? We talked about this. I don't really use roving very often, and if I do, I end up pulling it apart. So, just gonna grab a mask. This wouldn't be suitable for the locks, as you can see, because, well, actually, there might be one in here. No. So let's just get a little base going, like I was saying, the core of it, just because I gotta get my hands warmed up here too. I really start getting into whatever is my new favorite yarn. It's what I will make until I'm sick of it. And right now, this Tailspin is my new favorite yarn. Okay, here. So now I got my hands warmed up. This is essentially what I do. It looks like it's almost a ply, but it's not. And then right in the middle, I'm going to take this end, the shorn end, and I'm going to stick it in between this. Okay? And I'm going to leave this little piece out because I'm going to end up putting this back into the core of the yarn. I call it a core. It's not really a core. This base piece. Right? Okay, so now I'm going to go, and that's how I'm going to attach it. It's going to be attached by that. And I want to like straighten it out, and I want it looks like I'm like really pulling on it, and I am. Okay, there. And I don't want to overspin, so I can't just keep, turning and turning and turning. I'm going to have to stop. Because if I don't stop, I'm going to end up putting kinks in my yarn. Okay. So there we are. There's one. We want to evenly space it apart. Some people like them wider spaced. Personally, I like them more narrowly spaced. And that's just me. I use like a size 16 needle when I'm knitting this. And sometimes I'll put a whole bunch of these. Like I'll put like 4 locks, and that's how I did that pink scarf up there. Okay, so I split it. As you can see, I'm going to pull this tail out like this. And I'm going to get ready to, okay, and I'm going to just spin that as if it's, there. I'm going to straighten out my lock because I don't want it to get felted and messy. Now what can happen sometimes is as these locks go into the orifice, they can catch on these. And if they catch, you're just going to keep spinning and it's not going to go anywhere because it can't be pulled onto the bobbin. Then you're going to end up overspinning your yarn and having kinks. And remember, we've talked about this before, we do not want kinks in our yarn. It's really, it's very unprofessional and it doesn't look good. And it's not good technique. Okay, so here and this is painstaking for me here because I am trying to put them close together. A lot of people will put them like 4 inches apart or something. And, but like I said, I like it really close. Okay, so here I've got the end again. And I'm going to split it. I'm going to put it in the middle. And I'm going to take this little end because I want to it's almost like fastening it down so it won't come out, because the last thing you want is for your tail to come off of your scarf. Someone's wearing it and all of a sudden this chunk comes out of it. Okay, so I'm going to pull it apart because I have to. And then at the end what you'd end up doing is you just end up pulling all of these locks. This one got wrapped around pretty good. And you don't want to play with them too much like what I'm doing. You have to be really careful. But see, all this, when I get it wet, just like hair, it'll form back into a lock. Okay, so I'm going to there. Okay, and I'm going to grab another one. And this is what you do, and it takes a very long time. And so when people, have to purchase these kind of yarns, they're really expensive for the obvious reason. It's very, very labor intensive. And my hands have arthritis, so a yarn is really hard on them. But you do the best you can, and if people like it and enjoy it. And basically, I think with yarn like this, it makes the scarf. You don't even have to have, once you have good yarn, you don't even have to have like a hard, fancy pattern. Good yarn is all you need. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I have to find a good place to split it open. There we go. Grab another piece. And I don't think it takes me 6 hours for 15 yards, but it might be close, honestly. Because at first I was like, gosh, Bryce, that's so long. And then I started thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute. Actually, after all this starting and stopping, and I don't usually really time myself per se because, I've got kids and I have to stop. I have to go get my vegetables for my animals. I got to feed somebody. Some kid needs their hair done, or my yoga teacher's here, something like that. So, a lot going on. I'll grab another one. Put it in the middle. And this is the piece that I'm going to make sure that I spin in. And I'm going to twist my fingers like this. And so basically that's the idea. And when it turns like this and it wraps on itself, I can just pull it off. And I have that one over here that was frayed a little bit, and so it's going to be a bugger for sure. Like to undo this, I would have to undo it once I pull it off the bobbin. But it's trying to actually spin onto the main part. And you know, I don't want that. And I don't like messing with it too much because it kind of, there you go. So essentially, like this one didn't have a very good lock formation anyway. It had already been kind of pulled apart. And that's why you want to kind of use the one, you don't want to mess with them too much. You want to use the ones that have a nice formation together. And then, so this is kind of, and this one could be problematic when I get it wet, or if I dye it. This one might end up actually felting and it won't look very pretty. So another thing I could do is I could take it off and I could just felt another one on if I really wanted to. But I don't really like to do that either because it leaves a big bump right here. So anyway, this is how I do my tailspin. If you have any questions, you can email me at littlee@mac.com and I'm happy to answer them for you. Happy knitting, happy spinning.